Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Supreme Court today fixed February 19th to hear the pleas against the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners under the 2023 law, saying that if anything happens in the interregnum, the consequences are bound to follow. Now, this was a bench of Justices Surikant and N. Kotishwar Singh, and they were told by Advocate Prashant Bhushan today, who appeared for Association for Democratic Reforms, that earlier the pleas were scheduled to be heard on Wednesday, but now they have been listed on February 19th. So what does this approach by the court really speak? Is the court really serious about dealing with issues like electoral malpractices and electoral democracy? That's question number one. Question number two, does this postponement of the hearing deter the government in any way from going ahead and appointing the new CEC? Because Rajiv Kumar, the current Chief Election Commissioner, is supposed to retire on February the 18th. But keeping this issue aside, even yesterday, Supreme Court gave some directions to the Election Commission saying that no data from the EVM should be deleted, no fresh data should be reloaded. And also the Supreme Court asked the Election Commission to bring down the cost of the EVM verification. Because you remember, the cost of the EVM verification per EVM is 47,000 rupees. So if you want to get about 10 EVMs verified, you need to have about 47 lakh rupees. That's an exorbitant amount. And that's what exactly Supreme Court told the Election Commission to bring down the cost. And now the hearing for this particular issue is scheduled on 17th of March. So I thought that we must speak about both these issues, that why this Supreme Court hearing on the appointment process of the CEC and ECs was postponed to February 19th, and the other issue where the Supreme Court has given directions regarding the data of the EVM not being deleted. So joining me now this evening is a very special guest, a technical expert, somebody who's been a consultant to the Obama administration. Madhav Deshpande joins us. Thank you so much, Madhav, for joining this evening. It's a pleasure to have you on the program. And my first question to you is regarding the postponement of the hearing, which was scheduled for today. Now that the hearing is on 19th of February and Rajiv Kumar, the current CEC, retires on 18th. So do you think that today the Supreme Court has given a window to the Modi government to appoint the new CEC? What is your view?
Very honestly, I am not neither a constitutional expert, not a political expert. I look at this entire election process from two lenses. One, that of a common Indian who feels that there's a lot at stake for every Indian in having a fair and election process in general, whether it is electronic or otherwise. And secondly, somebody who looks at things from a technology perspective, because I've been a technocrat through my life. So I do not, my comments to this question of yours would necessarily fall very short of what is probably a view from an expert on constitution or expert on polity as such. As a common person, I believe that whether it is Modi government or whether it was earlier Manmohan Singh government or any government for that matter, it doesn't really matter. The sanctity of Election Commission being independent has to be maintained. Election Commission has to also behave in such a way. See, respect is always commanded. It can never be demanded. What is happening today is that people are trying to demand respect because their behavior falls way short of what people would respect them for. Talking of the Election Commission itself, if we look at the entire election process as such, it has been trivialized beyond any acceptable levels. For example, the electoral rolls are no more fair. They are not transparent. Nobody can see what rolls are. And there have been umpteen articles that have been written about how a single person or two people can have applied for more than thousands of names to be deleted from the electoral roll, when the rule says it should not be more than 6. Again, I'm not an expert in these matters, but I've read these articles. And Election Commission seems to completely ignore this. Look at all the local body elections. Take Bombay Municipal Corporation, take Pune Municipal Corporation, take so many, Gram Panchayat elections. These elections have not been held for years now. So people's representation, which is the core of any democracy, has been laid to rest completely. And that has been, Election Commission cannot say that they are ignorant of this, because it is their duty to know about all this. It is their duty, they are duty bound, they are responsible to make sure that election process in this country remains vibrant, it remains fair, and it remains just. They are not doing.
Right. But Madhav, as a conscientious citizen, what is your view? You follow the electoral democracy very closely. You followed the election process very closely. What is your view that today, if Supreme Court postponed the hearing to February 19th, citing that one of the judges was unwell, but then there were several other provisions which rest with the court could have given an interim order telling the government not to appoint the new CEC till the time at least this hearing is pending. But that didn't happen. So does that disappoint you as a citizen, as someone who looks forward to electoral democracy?
It does. And in fact, I've been saying, in our last conversation as well, as I remember, I've been saying that courts have been very disappointing, particularly Supreme Court has been extremely disappointing in all these matters. They haven't heard, they haven't taken a holistic view of the process. See, what is lacking entirely. I'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit of the holistic nature of even electronic voting machine based electronic system. Now we have electronic election system, and because our vote is electronic and the counting is done electronically, so in whatever happens in between is hodgepodge. That relates to the old ballot system. So all the controls that are put in place are old manual controls, and Supreme Court has to do a lot better. I appreciate that Supreme Court you can't expect Supreme Court to know the technology details, but there in a country which proudly claims that they are a superpower of software, there are enough people, I'm sure, more than enough, who would help Supreme Court to understand what needs to be done at various different times, at various different steps in the process. Supreme Court hasn't done that.
On the appointment of the new CEC looks scary now, because last time, if you remember, Mr. Goyal, when he was appointed as one of the election commissioners, the Supreme Court hearing was on, and in the middle of the process, all of a sudden, the new election commissioner was named by the Modi government, and this is what this is why people are scared. So do you see this? Supreme Court today, it seems, has given a long rope again to the government. Do you also feel the same?
Yes, I do. See, things have to be done in a timely manner as they are expected to be done. That's what I said. All these elections not being held, all the dates that we've always said, right? And that actually reflects very badly on Indian judiciary. In every language, you will have a parallel of a phrase which says, "Go anywhere, but don't climb the court steps." In India, this happens. Every language you have a saying like this: "Don't go to the court, because you will never get timely justice." And whether Supreme Court accepts it or not, the fact is that we see even routine judgments that should come within, let's say, 7 days or 10 days of magistrate or judicial custody or police custody, when nothing is found, bails are not given. How many times people have spoken about it? Similarly, so that on one side you have judicial activism, we talk about it. On the other side, there is judicial complete lack of sensitivity, in my view, and that is killing Indian democracy. If the court had insisted that no, there has to be continuity, And you had enough time. I mean, everybody knew that the CEC was going to retire on the 18th. It is not that something has happened suddenly. So there was enough time to decide about the new appointment.
Right. So you feel that the courts have gone soft on the government. The court has shown lethargy as far as the electoral democracy in the country is concerned.
Yes, I do think so. Yes.
Right. Okay. Now I'll come to the issue regarding the directions which yesterday Supreme Court gave to the Election Commission, saying that please don't delete the data of the EVMs. Now, Supreme Court recognizing this fact that Election Commission is deleting the EVM data, the very acknowledgement by the court, do you think that now this exposes Election Commission's fraud when it comes to the tampering of the EVM?
Not necessarily. I am very happy that the court has said this, because we've been saying this for long. When you say that a particular system has not defrauded, you have to establish two things. Whether you are talking of EVM or any other system, even if it is a manual system, what do auditors do? Auditors check the transactions, they establish a pre-transaction status, then they add all the transactions, and they establish an expected post-transaction status. And if that matches, then they say that yes, everything is good. I mean, data has the integrity. Similarly, here, the process that Election Commission needs to publish as a standard operating procedure necessarily has to be technical. It cannot be an administrative process. What they've done today.
So far, the position which the court held on EVM was something which was very sacrosanct about EVM. EVMs cannot be tampered. EVMs are a pathway to the electoral democracy. But is that stance, is that position which was taken all this while by the court seems to be shattered by yesterday's directions? It seems like an acknowledgement by the Supreme Court that yes, EVMs can be tampered.
At least the Supreme Court has started thinking on the right lines. So far, the stand Supreme Court had taken was absolutely laughable in my view, honest view. Because, see, there is clearly a huge conflict of interest. There is an election commission to which the technical experts committee reports. They decide and appoint the committee, and that committee is going to certify whether the EVMs are going to be are working correctly or not. The companies that make these EVMs, the Bharat Electronic and the ECIL, both are public sector undertakings which are completely and entirely controlled by the government. An employee of that company comes and verifies in courts. Nobody knows what that verification is going to be. Election Commission hasn't given any SOP of what that verification will be. Because when they want to do this, that's why I said, I gave the example of chartered accountant. You have to establish electronically a state before the election or the voting started. And then you have to have all the transactions during the day of the voting. And then you have to predict what the end state at the end of the day should be. And that has to be matched. You cannot say that, anything other than this, they will have to justify technically. So they haven't done this. So at least the court for the first time, as I see it.
Madhav, all this while, Supreme Court never acknowledged this fact that EVMs can be tampered, though people like you had been always saying that yes, EVMs can be tampered with, EVMs can be manipulated, but the courts never acknowledged this. But what forced the courts now to acknowledge and tell the Election Commission that please don't delete the EVM data?
See, even when the SOP came out, I had written in an article in The Wire saying that this SOP does not address the basic issue of establishing that the EVMs did not misbehave. What it was doing was basically conducting a mock poll. And fortunately, for the first time, as I said, the Supreme Court seems to have started thinking on the right lines. They're saying, okay, we accept that this is not verification of the data, because if you delete the data, then there is no proof that any tampering did happen or not. Why do you need to delete the data? What has been asked to do is to establish that on the polling day, EVM did not get tampered. It did not misbehave. By deleting the data and establishing that it is working correctly today does not establish that it did not misbehave on that particular day. And that's why, if you remember, I've been giving this example again and again. If I make a phone call, for the first time it goes to the right number, the second time it goes to a wrong number, and the third time it again goes to a right number. It doesn't mean that the call in the middle, which was a wrong number, did not happen. It did happen. You have to establish why it did happen or why it did not happen. That on that particular day, on the day of voting, that is the real core of this whole direction that the Supreme Court had given. And the SOP that ECI had given completely disregarded this core and focused on establishing that, okay, it did work correctly on the mock poll, during the mock poll before elections. Now, after you have applied, we are again going to conduct a mock poll on the same machine and say that it was, it is working all right. So therefore, it did not misbehave on that day. That doesn't happen. If you're driving a car, you press brake, it works. Then for some time, for whatever happens, it doesn't brake, and then again it brakes. It doesn't mean that when the second time you braked it and it did not apply the brakes, that situation did exist.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.